So, how many people have ever traveled to somewhere that English was not the native language? Well, a bunch of you, okay. And how many of you have seen that tourist, that person that just assumes that everyone is speaking English, even though they're in a completely different country? Exactly. So, today I'm going to talk to you about learning a different language. Not only am I learning a new language, but it does require some research to learn a new language outside of just this speech. And it could be beneficial to you in more than just the traveling aspect. It would allow you to communicate with a larger group of people, not just out of the country, but also in the United States. There are many people that live in the U.S. that English is not their native tongue. It would give you the opportunity to not only learn about a new culture, but also to experience and be incorporated in that culture as well. And knowing a second or even third language would also give you greater job opportunities. Being able to communicate with a larger group of people would benefit you. You might get to meet someone that you wouldn't have normally met if you didn't know that language. Say you're at work, which this has happened to me several times. I used to work in retail at H.H. Gray. There was a fairly large deaf community in Chattanooga, and they would come in all the time. It helped me because not only did I get to know this wonderful group of people, but I could understand them and not try and just constantly write back and forth. They felt like they were appreciated because I had taken the time to learn their language and learn something about them without just going back and forth on a piece of paper. In 2006, the British Journal of Social Work conducted a study, and it said that language is intimately related to the people who use it, where speech, speakers, and relationships are inseparable. Which means, to me, that they're all interconnected. How can you have a personal relationship with somebody if you can't even communicate on the most basic of levels? Speech. Not only would it help you to connect with new people, it would help you to learn and understand their culture, why they do the things that they do, and get accustomed to it. You'd be able to adapt more to them. The Journal on Excellence in College Teaching posted a study in 2010 that stated, the study started with students working in tutoring with Spanish children. And it stated that by the end of the semester, the social interaction and personal relationships between the students and families were considerably more intense. And by intense, they just mean that they were more communicative with each other, they were friendlier, and got along significantly better because they understood each other. In the same article, the observers also stated that the service learning experience helps students to move out of their comfort zones, cross cultural borders, and confront their preconceived notions about that way of life, which means that they got to understand and actually learn about that culture rather than just assuming they knew what was going on and why they were doing certain things. Learning a new language could also be useful to you in your job search. How many have ever found that dream job but they couldn't apply simply because it required a second language? And here in the U.S., that is a lot more common than people think. The Journal of International Business Studies stated in 2010 that multinational corporations use various practices such as language-sensitive recruitment and language training as part of their language policies, meaning that they do specifically look for people who learn and know a second language and are willing to train people in a second language or third language if they are willing. And let's be honest, you can use that in your current job as well. Learning a new language while you're currently in your job could benefit you in ways that you wouldn't think it would. You could be up for promotions and things of that nature simply because you learned a new language and you have more skills. So just to recap, learning a second language will help you communicate with a larger group of people. You get to experience and understand new cultures and new ways of life, and you have a greater range of job opportunities at your feet. So I hope you take some time today and explore the possibilities and opportunities of learning a new language. I did have some websites for you. You can do that here on UTK's campus. They do have language learning courses. You can go to UTK's catalog. They do offer sign language courses as well. There are even apps for your phone or your computer and tablet, such as Duolingo. It takes 10 minutes out of your day. You go through different levels, and you could be on your way to learning a new language. So I hope you leave here today excited and eager about the possibilities of learning a new language and what that can do for you.
One book a month can put you in the top 1% income earners in the whole world. This is said by Brian Tracy, who is a professional speaker and also the author of 60 books. Why I'm going to talk to you about this is because I'm very passionate about improving myself. I don't really like reading and I don't really like going to school, but I do like improving myself, so I do take time out of my day to read books as well as going to school. I know many of you don't like reading. I know many people don't like going to the bookstore, but it does cost $0 to go to the library, and which I think is awesome. It's free knowledge that we get from anybody. Things that I'm going to go over are going to be how it develops the mind, successful people that have done it before us and that use reading as a tool to become successful, and as well as it creates a greater memory storage. First, I'm going to go over how it develops your mind. Glenn Davis, who wrote an article, Why Reading is So Important, he said, a person who knows to read can educate themselves in any area they're interested in. I know there's an overwhelming amount of information in the world, but if you focus on things that interest you, it actually can help you along the way. I know in school we go over things that don't really interest you, like things that don't interest me are like English. For you it may be math or whatever it may be the case. But when you go to the bookstore, you can go to whatever section you want to and look at things that actually you want to read. As a child, imagination runs wild, and as a child, As a child, imagination runs wild, and you start to notice things, and it helps you envision things. And today, you wouldn't be here if you weren't able to envision things. You wouldn't be in college. If you got up in the morning, you didn't imagine yourself being successful, you wouldn't have got up this morning. You wouldn't have tried to get up and come to school to try to better yourself. Reading takes you beyond the easy way of communicating, said by Dominic Macro, psychological professor at the University of California. It takes you to a whole nother world and it challenges you. This is very important because normally when people that read, when a book comes out when a movie comes out from a book, generally the person will say that the movie wasn't as good as the book. And why that is because typically people's imagination is running wild, and when they put that on the screen, it just destroys their imagination because they put it out there. Now that I've gone over why it helps develop the mind, I'm going to go over the successful people that have done it before us. The people come from different walks of life, and they all make reading a habit. According to Tom Corley in 2016, rich people who roughly make around $200,000 to $3.2 million a year read to self-improve and become successful, whereas poor people typically just read for entertainment. People that have done it for us are going to be Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, as well as Mark Cuban. I know this is going to sound like a lot of reading to you, but Oprah Winfrey reads about a book a month. in her book clubs. Bill Gates, 50 books per year, which equates to about 1 book per week. Mark Cuban, many people might not know who Mark Cuban is. Mark Cuban, he's on Shark Tank, if anybody's ever watched that, as well as he's a successful investor, and he also owns the Dallas Mavericks. He reads three hours a day, which is a lot of reading, to tell you the truth. Reading grows the mind, and next we're going to go over how reading develops the mind, which improves your memory. How reading improves your memory. I read there was a book on philosophy of human learning. The phenomenon of memory is extremely varied and affects all aspects of human life, as well as provides a sense of continuing in our abilities that learn, which can be flying or as well as playing chess. Reading can help you do things. Normally people nowadays, they'll say, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to fly. I don't know how to drive. Well, you can go to the bookstore and you can learn anything. I mean, there's books written on how to do things, and we have access to it nowadays. You can as well read it on the internet, whatever you want to do, however you want to read it. No longer have that excuse. Widely publicized 2014 National Endowed Arts of Study. They created a survey. Literary reading in America. The website wrote, literary reading is dramatically declining. The decline is 50% greater in ages of 18 to 24 compared to older generations. I think as people nowadays, as we're growing older, we need to look at people that have come before us and try to progress past what they have done. They've laid the foundation for us, and we need to try to push forward past what they have done for us. To conclude, I went over how to develop minds, as well as successful people that have done it before us, and as well as how it creates a greater storage, or memory storage. Went over this a lot through the speech, but I believe that reading, it costs $0 to go to the bookstore, and it really helps to, go to the bookstore and try to help develop yourself. I know there's not much time in the day as well. Most people might be going to school full-time as well as going to work full-time, and I think it's very important to try to read at least 10 to 15 pages a day, which is going to be really hard for some of us because of the time constraint, but I think it'll help us in the end. 3 books that I've read. There's actually a catalog out there. It's the top 10 books you should read before you die. These are the 3. I have 10, but I'm not going to bring all 10 in. But the 3 I've brought in, there's The Alchemist, it's actually recommended by, I can't remember his name at the top of my head, but it's basically a book of how someone can an alchemist is someone who can turn gold into lead into gold. The Power of Positive Thinking. This is one of my favorites. I think it's great to have a positive mind and to approach everything in a positive way. And then Catch-22, I'm sure someone has said to you along the lines that, oh, that's a catch-22, which basically means that if you're going to do something, it can't be done. If you want to try to do something, it can't be done in the proper way. You'd have to really read the book. It's really hard to explain, but it's a really good book to read. I know it's a longer book, but it's a really good book to try to read. And that's all. Thank you.